Hello everyone. Today's episode is going to focus on this storage container here. I've had it a while, it's worn, and my initial thought was it's time to get rid of it and just buy a new one. If you haven't priced them, they're probably anywhere between $150 to $200. So I had the idea of what can I do to improve the appearance of this container and maybe get a few more years out of it. So again, this episode is going to focus on painting this. And there's probably a lot of people out there that are thinking, oh, you paint it, it's going to immediately chip, it's not going to last. That might be the case, but for me in particular, my use of this basically consists of opening the lid and closing it. I'm not rough on it, I'm not banging stuff up against it, so it's my thought that it's worth giving it a try and painting it and seeing how it looks and seeing how long it lasts. So anyways, I'm going to show you step by step what I do to accomplish that. Okay, the first step anytime you paint something is, of course, you have to scrub it clean, make sure there isn't any dirt, residue, anything like that on the container. So I'm basically just using some dish soap. I bought some stripping pads. You can use like a scouring pad, whatever. And maybe I might grab some degreaser to get the more difficult spots. But basically the next step is going to involve just really scrubbing this down, getting it as clean as possible before we paint. All right, I'm about to start scrubbing it down, but I thought maybe just in case you're interested, I wanted to show you exactly what I'm going to be using. Again, it's a stripping pad, but you could probably use a scouring pad like you use to wash the dishes. I won't film everything, but just gonna start by scrubbing it down, getting it nice and clean. Just if you have a sponge, use a sponge. And then after you kind of get it all wet, soaped up, then of course you'll use your pads and really scrub it down and rinse it, and that should be it. Okay, I'm about ready to get started painting. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. I'm using spray cans. Most people don't have a hand sprayer, so I thought I tailored the video to what most people have accessible to them, and everyone could buy spray cans. Um, I'm going to start with a primer, a white primer. I'm going to spray the whole thing. Um, I'll kind of show you a couple of tips that I think are helpful, but again, we won't record every single thing here. And the second thing I wanted to mention, and I probably should have kind of mentioned this at the start of the video, is if I'm going to repaint this and kind of bring it back to life, so to speak, I think it's a good opportunity to maybe kind of get a little creative or customize it the way you want it. So once I'm done primering this, I am not going to paint it brown again. I'm actually going to paint it to match the colors of my house. So I'm going to do a matte white, and then I'm going to do some of the trim in gray, which again, corresponds to the colors of my house. So I just thought I'd share that. I think, you should take advantage of the opportunity to, again, paint it the way you want it versus just painting it brown again. The most important thing to keep in mind when you're using a spray can is, when possible, begin spraying just to the side of the area that you want to spray, and then release, same thing, to the side of the area that you just got done spraying. So just to kind of demonstrate, press, release, press, follow that pattern. And you should avoid any drips or any buildup of paint in one particular area. Wanted to show you really quickly where we're at right now. I don't know, maybe about 80% done. As you can see here, it's not completely, there's not full coverage here. And I wanted to share that you might not always be able to apply the tip I shared earlier in the video. And I just wanted to remind you, if you can't do that, that's fine, but just, you have to continuously keep the can moving to avoid any type of drips or anything like that. Because if you don't do that, then that's how you start to get drips. But as you can see, it takes time. It's time consuming. I figured out that it'll probably take 3 full cans of primer. Kind of back to a comment I made earlier in the video. If you have a hand sprayer, maybe you may want to consider using it, especially for the primer, because you want a full a solid, decent coat, base coat with your primer. And if you have a hand sprayer, it'll put out that much more paint that quicker rather than using a spray can. But again, we've committed to doing this project with spray cans, and I'll go ahead and show you in a moment here what it looks like once it's all completely completed with the primer. Okay, today's day 2. We're done with the primering. There's still some spots where you may notice in the video that there's not 100% coverage, and I'm actually okay with that. Like you could probably see right in here, because this is going to be gray, gray. The middle will be white. So again, I wasn't too much concerned with that. But as I start spraying the top coat, I'm using white. I chose a matte finish. One of the things I wanted to point out is when you saw me applying the primer, I was just kind of all over the place in terms of spraying. Probably looked a little erratic. But with the top coat, I'm going to be a little bit more careful, I guess, in terms of how I'm applying the paint. I'm going to try to use more even strokes up and down to help provide a better finish. I wanted to point out one thing that I think would be helpful to remind you all on, and it may be self-explanatory, but don't forget to commit individual sprays into the slats, because um, otherwise the paint may not you may not get full coverage in there. And then also the edges. And then remember, keep the can moving. Okay, so the white's all done, and I'm getting ready to spray those areas that I want gray. Of course, before I do that, I need to protect the white sections. So I've already begun to do some of the masking. Um, I have a tape gun. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy one, especially for a job this small, but you will likely need either this type of paper, which they sell in the section with all the paint supplies, or newspaper or whatever. But as you can see, we just want to protect the white. And the gun, it makes it a lot easier. And you'll just repeat that. Cover the whole section. Repeat that process on all the sides, or anything that you choose to have protected if you're doing 2 colors like I am. The masking's all done. I'm going to start spraying on the gray now. What I chose is, again, a matte finish. And I'm just going to pretty much use the same type of technique that I applied with the white coat. Just a light coat to start with, then just go coat after coat, but always just go light first. just repeat it all the way around. Okay, so the gray's all done. I too put 3 coats of gray, and now I'm just gonna start taking off the paper. I'll go ahead and continue taking off the rest, and then we'll just wrap up with some final thoughts on the project. Okay, so like I shared, it's 100% complete. I'm really pleased with the way it came out. I would recommend, if you have a storage container that's pretty worn, I'd recommend you giving this a shot. A few things that I wanted to share that I learned through this process here is, if you have a handheld sprayer, you may want to consider using that to apply the primer, because that was probably the most time consuming. But then again, you have to factor in the time that it takes to clean your handheld sprayer. Second thing is to consider the finish that you're going to use. I went with matte because that's what I wanted, and I thought it looked really nice. But in terms of being more practical, it will not be the easiest finish to clean. So again, you probably want to consider like a satin or a semi-gloss. Last point is the paints. Um, you see here that this says 2 times. It really is true to the labeling there. Um, I had to use 3 cans of primer, and when it came down to the white, which is the surface here, 1 can of this Rust-Oleum 2 times was able to do all of the white, all 4 sides. And then the gray, I went with Bear only because Bear is the only can I could find that came in a matte finish, and it took 2 cans of this particular spray can to do just the gray. So if you can find a color that you like for that's made by Rust-Oleum 2 times, I'd recommend using that. Again, it'll just save you a can of spray paint. So 3 cans, uh, 1 can, and then 2 cans of the gray. So I hope you find this beneficial. Again, I'm excited with the way it came out, and again, I'd highly recommend you giving it a try.